The Lakers are slip, slide, try to provide for me. They are slip sliding down the standings, and they are looking for AD to provide some semblance of something, some leadership, some dominance. Braun is over there in the corner, licking his wounds in the cave, cut up, bruised, battered. It's like, all right, AD, we need you. And he's 37 years old. He's got an abdominal strain. He's got an ankle sprain. We need you. And I don't know how good it's been going so far. One of the main reasons and one of the main things that the NBA Twitter discussed in the offseason when the Lakers brought in Russ and all of the youngsters and all those former All-Stars like Carmelo is that AD at the 5 was going to transform this team, and all these other pieces, AD at the 5 made them make sense. It was going to transform this franchise, and it has. It has. It really has. It seems that this plan of AD at the 5 at the beginning of the season to play big, which is why they signed 2 big men to go with AD, wasn't going to work. That was their original plan. Are we going to play AD at the 5? Or are we going to play these other 2 guys at the 5? Because AD doesn't really want to be the 5. He's kind of a 4, but we're better at the 5. So this is what's going on. DeAndre Jordan and Dwight Howard are now Lakers. And very similarly to Montrezl Harrell and Andre Drummond and Marc Gasol, it's not working. They are watching on the bench. They are getting DMPs. They are not getting minutes. You've got Dwight Howard now shooting threes. Yeah, that happened twice last night. Yeah, it did. Why, though? What is happening? The immutable fact is Anthony Davis, despite him not wanting to be the 5, is a better 5 than he is a 4. Just changes the complexity of the lineups and rotations. The people that he plays against when he's at 5 puts him in a better position. And having a slow, prodding big man, these Invisalign are fucking me up. This prodding big man like Drummond and Montrez. Drummond, Marc Gasol, Dwight, JaVale. That's not going to do it, dog. That's just not going to do it. They got to go. They got to go. So what is the problem? We've got AD at the 5. What's the problem? The problem is that AD at the 5 is not working either. Given that roster construction and the floor spacing of this team. AD at the 5 when the Lakers are just 2 and 4. AD at the 5, let me say it again. With AD at the 5, the Lakers are just 2 and 4. And that is including this last improbable kerfuffle fracas in Detroit. There was a recent article in Lakers Nation, came out and said what we've all been thinking. Head coach Frank Vogel recognized that the team was far more effective on both ends of the floor when Davis was at center. Since then, the Lakers' 2 centers, Jordan and Howard, have gotten minimal minutes as Davis takes a majority of time at the center position. And so, in theory, this should work out. But in reality, none of the Lakers' roster makes sense right now. They should be good, but they aren't. They've got a lot of stars, but it's not really working. They should play defense, but they don't. And even Frank Vogel's like, I just couldn't tell you what's going on. He knows what we know. The spacing is a problem. Shh, don't tell anyone. The spacing consistently is an issue. He goes, yeah, if we move, the spacing looks great. The ball doesn't move and players don't move. It doesn't matter what spacing you have. Pause. That's pretty much the heart of it, isn't it? We're playing one-on-one, and we just get the ball moving a little more, and when we do it, we look great, and we've seen that we can do it. We've just got to do it longer. And obviously for 48 minutes. Yeah, that's a quote. Even Braun is struggling to figure out what's going on, how to make this work. He's like, yeah, we're just trying to find the lineup that best fits us. Pause. We are now currently, checks notes, almost a quarter of the way through the season. And the Lakers still don't know what lineups work best? Excuse me? That is not great. That is significant alarm bells. That is what training camp is for. That is training. That is legitimately what training camp and preseason is for. Figure out how people mesh, where the chemistry is, what lineups, rotations work. This is what he has to say even more. Obviously, we started the season big with DJ and AD and myself at the 3, 4, 5. And as of late, we've went smaller with AD at the 5. So we're just trying to figure out, get enough minutes long enough to see what best lineups work for us and how we want to see us play. Like I said before, this was a tricky lineup in any genius's book. Like, this roster may never work, but in order for it to cobble together and work, like, you need a high IQ head coach that understands how everyone functions together, deficiencies, how the rotations work, second unit, third unit. Do you really trust Frank Vogel with anything complex? Like, complex problem solving? I don't. And that's why he's got to check his butt, because he's on the hot seat like Luke Walton was. By the way, Luke Walton's gone now. You know what kind of team has roster issues a quarter of the season in? The fucking Kings. That's the kind of team. Bad teams. Houston. You know? Orlando. They have too many guards they don't know what to do with. Like, okay, Kings have 4 guys. What are you talking about? Here's more from Braun. Obviously, we played big over the course of my years here in LA with Frank. Obviously, with JaVale, with Dwight, and last year with Mark and Big Drum when he came to the team, and as well as Trez. We'll see where we land at some point. What? That's like a pilot who doesn't know the flight path, who's like, we'll see if we land in Bali or in Houston. Like, whoa. I think it will probably happen over the course of the next few weeks, he says, as we get close to pretty much a fourth of the season. Here's where I'll mention again. In the first quarter of the season, where the Lakers have played a huge percentage of their games at home against weak fucking teams, that was the point that you're supposed to get the head start so that you can pad your record so that when the real games come, you don't look so bad. So you can actually have a good win total heading into the All-Star break. At All-Star break, at this rate, you are going to be in real trouble. And this is why that Isaiah Stewart game was so important and so telling. Even though the Lakers ended up winning, we saw all of the glaringly obvious issues, all of the problems. John Hollinger wrote, much as they try to experiment with big lineups, this Lakers team is far better with Davis at 5 as a menacing, switching defensive monster than trying to play huge lineups with Davis next to Dwight or DeAndre Jordan. The Lakers have tried those combos for a total of 182 minutes and have been outscored by 36 points. And yet, though, here's where it gets tricky. With Davis at the 5, they're still only winning a third of their games against, again, OKC, Detroit, Houston. Like, they could be even worse shape. Like, they could have lost to San Antonio in overtime. Memphis, one Ja Morant free throw away. Like, this is not good. Like, I cannot express, like, oh, Trysta, you hate the Lakers, and so you're just an alarmist because you want them to fail. And true, but that does not have to do with anything here, which is that the facts are what happens when you go on the road to play a team like the Jazz with Rudy Gobert or the Nets or the Bucks. How will this lineup deal with athletic big men who stretch the floor, have multiple big men that are athletic? Like, fuck, you could lose to Cleveland. Like, easily. There are so many questions surrounding the Lakers right now, and it just doesn't feel like there are any answers. It just doesn't feel like logically, like you hope that it might get better, but you can't really think of how the solution is going to come to fruition. This is not, they don't even have a lineup that makes sense for them in the first and second unit that is successful. You've got Braun no longer being Braun. AD, who has health issues, and at the 5 makes sense on paper, but in reality is not going to win them games. The spacing issues that we've talked about, I don't know, a gajillion times, have not been fixed. They will not be fixed. Let me just say this again. Spacing issues, not going to be fixed. Why? Because basically it all comes down to this. Russell Westbrook doesn't move without the ball. That's just it. That's it. It's like a successful rotation with Braun and AD, and Russ doesn't exist because of Russ. It's almost like Russ doesn't fit with his team. It's almost like Buddy Hield should have been there. It's almost like LeBron shouldn't be the GM. I don't know. Maybe they fix it. Maybe they don't. Maybe I look like an idiot at the Western Conference Finals. Maybe I'm watching them again at Staples Center in the play-in game. Like, I watched that with my own two eyes. They were in the play-in. Maybe this is just a 10 seed with a bunch of nice names. Maybe this is an 11 seed. Maybe we're all like, on First Take, we discuss, is this the end of LeBron James? My column. Like, Russell Westbrook probably said it best when he admitted post-game. I think the reality of it is on the outside, we have really high expectations of our team, and they should and we should. But the reality of it is we have not played well with each other. 18 games in the season, and I don't have chemistry yet. No closer to having chemistry than when they didn't win a game in the preseason. And I tell you what, at a certain point, it's just going to be too late. Get your shit together, Lakers. Because, truthfully, even as a hater, playoffs are better when you're in it. That's all the time that we have for the Heat Check podcast. We will be back early, squirrely Wednesday mornings with all the latest happenings in the league. We will be back, I believe, Friday, but we're recording this early, so I'm not sure how this whole time schedule works out. But do not forget to follow us on social at This League and at Trysta Krick on TikTok, Instagram, and on Twitter. We will see you Wednesday, guys. See you soon.